Hey, today on Gun Talk Nation, Max Michel is here in studio, in person. We're talking about shooting and making you a better shooter, and you can actually come train with Max coming up here real soon. I'm Ryan Gresham, and this is Gun Talk Nation. This Gun Talk Nation is brought to you by Remington Ammo, Guns and Gear, HI-VIZ Sights, Silencer Central, and Range Ready Studios. All right, welcome into Gun Talk Nation. Max Michel's here. How about that? Welcome in, man.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me. The place looks amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, you've kind of followed the journey of our new location, but we're really settled in now.
Yeah, I mean, you showed me around when it was kind of a first thought, and then kind of seeing it pulling up today and walking through the facility and sitting down, taking a look here. It's incredible.
Thanks,
Super
man.
cool.
Yeah. The people who are like the viewers and the listeners of what we do, we keep talking about it. But I mean, if your friend said, hey, I bought a 17,000 square foot slaughterhouse and we're going to make it into a media studio, you probably are like, are you sure about that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly my thought as well. But when I walk through and I start seeing things, and when you see it all come to happen, and it's pretty awesome. And as a gun guy and as a range guy, you walk in, like today I walked in, I'm like, man, is there a way that I can maybe find a space to hang out with these guys more and shoot here more?
That's the idea. It's like supposed to be like a fun place to come to. And
right.
What's funny about it is when we run classes, I mean, obviously you want to make it a comfortable space, a welcoming space. And I think we've done that. When we'll run a 2-day class. And at the end of 2 days, I mean, everybody's tired because that's physical exertion. Right. No one will leave. Chris is like, dude, I mean, obviously the guys who are taking the class love it.
Yeah.
But at some point I'll be like, all right, guys, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Right, exactly.
We got to close up shop.
Yeah.
Everybody's hanging out, talking guns.
I can see that totally. It's great environment for that, for sure.
What you been up to? You're always traveling.
Busy.
You're always doing stuff.
Yeah, super busy. I did take the month of July just to kind of reset because last year didn't really end for me. It just kind of rolled all the way through to the beginning of 2023. And this year's just been incredible. Super busy, lots of matches, lots of training. And I booked it that way purposely. I wanted to get all my, I guess, work, quote unquote work in the beginning part of the year because my thought process was to train at the latter part of the year and to shoot the bigger matches at the end of the year.
Focus on that.
But everything just kind of started getting poured into the beginning of the year. So it got super busy. So I just took the month of July to really just, I train a few different law enforcement groups, but from my standpoint, really just kind of relax because when I did them at my personal range. So when I'm home and I'm working at home, I can sleep in my own bed. It's not really work to me. It's just kind of hanging out, shooting with buddies, and took my family out on a vacation just to kind of relax and reset as well. So it's been a real busy year. You
got to do that. It's funny because people do it to me all the time when they ask, what do you do for work? And I try to tell them, and they a lot of times are like, how does that work? I mean, how do you make money doing that?
Right.
And like, what do you do all the time? Yours is even weirder.
Right.
Like it's got to be like, wait, what do you do for work? What do you tell people?
Yeah, the easy answer is I'm a firearms consultant. That's kind of like the easy answer now because
that's the answer if you don't really want to get into it too much.
Right. Yeah, because a lot of the folks that my kids go to school with, their parents, they're like, what does your dad do? How does that work? Well, can I do that? Because obviously living in the South, everybody wants to shoot, hunt, fish, whatever. But it is a great job. I love what I do, and I wouldn't want to do anything else. When I was of course, you remember I was in the Army for a while. And when I was there, I went to college and got my degree in criminal justice or minor in psychology. Yeah. I always thought I would take my military years and roll it over into some federal law enforcement job.
Right.
That was kind of always my dream, but just the pro shooting thing worked out, man. So just doing what I love for a living. I say it's work. I say it's been busy and it's been a lot, but I wouldn't want to do anything else. Put a gun in my hand, give me a gun range, and that's really where I'm most comfortable.
Talk about the train. You do a lot of training over the years, but you're doing some new stuff lately.
Yeah, so I hooked up with a company, Howitzer Clothing.
Yeah.
Great group of guys. They came into one of my courses. I do a big event in Las Vegas every year. It's like an annual training, more for the pro shooting side of things, more for the competitive shooters, but they jumped in that course. They were friends of JJ Ricazza, who's another one of my instructors there, and we got introduced that way, and just a great group of folks that I really took a liking to, and hung out with them at another event, maybe a month or two later, shot a competition with them and just kind of connected with them. And they mentioned to me they have a program, what they call Project Blue Line. And that's where they train law enforcement officers all over the country for free.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's almost too good to be true, right? So I was like, okay, so how does this work? And they said, well, we either provide you a group of law enforcement guys that need training, or you let us know who needs the training and we take care of them. And it was almost too good to be true initially. I didn't really, jump all in just to start with. So I just kind of continued to keep in touch and talked with other folks that worked with them in the past. But yeah, it was just that. So we started training with them where I wanted to start locally. Being here in the South in Louisiana, I wanted to start here. So in the St. Tammany Parish and kind of work our way out to state police and all over the state, really. So it's been pretty cool. So the way the project works is Howitzer Clothing, they would sell clothing, and a portion of the proceeds go to this program. And if you're a law enforcement officer, if you're active duty law enforcement, you can apply to train with myself and several other instructors all over the country, from pistol to rifle to medical training, whatever.
Wow.
And so you just come to the course and it's free of charge, and Howitzer takes
awesome.
care of it. So it's been really cool. I've done a few of those in the month of July, and I'm looking forward to doing a lot more this year.
How do they find information? Do they go to Howitzer's website?
They do. HowitzerClothing.com, I believe, is the website, but just Google Howitzer Clothing and it'll pop up.
Okay.
And within that, you'll see Project Blue Line, and you can click on that, and you can apply to train with several different guys.
That's awesome, dude.
It's super cool. So it's been a passion for sure.
And you're still doing your Las Vegas event?
I am. So I haven't went publicly on that one yet, but we have our 9th annual event coming up. It'll probably be toward the end of March. We think we've narrowed down the date, but when you have all these different staff and hotels and lodging, all the things that come with it, the range, and it's just it's a lot to put into kind of nail it all down. But we're looking at the end of March 2024. We do that once a year, and it's a super cool event. It's an all-inclusive Las Vegas event where we stay at the Trump Hotel. They're really good to us. The Trump family's been great to us for all these years, allowing us to keep our firearms on property.
Yeah, that's cool.
Which is a good thing. They don't treat us like criminals because
I appreciate that.
yeah, we've been in other situations in Vegas where they have, and the Trump family stepped in and took really good care of us. So we have a all-inclusive event at the Pro Gun Club in Boulder City there near Las Vegas. It's a 4-day event. Meet and greet, several social activities, tons of gun giveaways. I think last year we only allow 24 guys in, so it's a very small VIP experience with 3 world champion instructors. All the food's taken care of, transportation, all those things. But the really cool part of it is we only brought in 24 folks, and I think we gave away like 12 or 13 guns last year, plus another number of prizes. So just for showing up, you have a great chance of winning a gun.
And that's kind of high-end, focused on pistol, right?
It is, yep.
Okay.
So it's super high-end, kind of competitive shooting-like, but we do have some folks who come in that haven't drawn from a holster before either. So it's kind of a wide range of mix of shooters, but that's my job and instructors' jobs to really kind of navigate them through accordingly. So we have different groups. We have group 1, 2, and 3, depending upon their skill set and their skill level. We'll kind of match them with their type of shooters. And that way, as you come to your instructor, we know, hey, these guys have shot before. They've shot competitively. They've been shooting for a couple of years. They're maybe a A-class or above type shooter. So we can run them through a little bit differently than we can somebody who hasn't drawn from a holster before.
Sure.
So we kind of keep those guys all together, and it gives us an opportunity to really train them the right way.
Talk about all these different classes, and that's a different thing. That's towards the competitive side.
Right.
And then you teach law enforcement. But just in general, with people taking classes and training, talk about the improvement that you see in 2 or 3 or 4 days from someone. I mean, what can someone expect?
Yeah, I mean, look, you're not going to become a professional shooter in 3 or 4 days, but what you will do is you'll have the kind of the knowledge and the tools that you would need to progress to whatever your best will be. And, just like I tell my kids all the time in sports or whatever, I don't need you to be the best shooter in the world or be the best football player in the world. I just need you to be your best. And the only way you can be your best is through training, in my opinion. You have to have the proper training, and then you have to put that training in motion. You can't just go for a weekend and say, I'm good. And, now if situation pops up, I can handle my family. Yeah, you'll be more prepared because you were there that weekend, but you would be so much more prepared if you continue to work on it, even on just a monthly basis.
Yeah.
So I would say training, what you can expect is you can be a lot more comfortable. And when you leave that training, you'll be a lot more confident in knowing how to get to that next level and continue to progress in your career of shooting or whatever it is in life.
Yeah, what to work on when you go to the range. It's funny because we do typically, most of the time we're running 2-day classes here. And it's always a balance because I think sometimes I worry about, are we going to get enough people to sign up? Are they worried about, 2 days, that's a commitment. and then it ended up costing more than a 1-day class. And honestly, I'm like, but think how good they could get in 3 days.
Yeah.
And then, but then I'm going, but are we going to have a lot of people not wanting to sign up because it's 3 days? You and I, it's like, well, that's just normal. Like you go take a class, but I get it. People have jobs, they've got commitments and expenses and all that stuff. But even at the end of a 2-day class, it's a major transformation for most people if they've never taken a class. Mm-hmm. And like for instance, a lot of stuff we do, defensive pistol, they know how to load, unload, and shoot the gun, but they haven't done a whole lot of holster work, and they really don't know what they're doing as far as grip and trigger and all of those things. I think that it's amazing what can happen in just a couple of days. I mean, you can teach someone how to actually discharge a gun in an hour, mm-hmm. but even in 2 days, several hundred rounds, 400 or 500 rounds, whatever it might be. They're going, if Max Michel is a 100 and mm-hmm. they're probably walking in at like a 10, but by the time they leave, they might be like a 50.
Oh yeah. I mean, and like you said too, that's with me, 1 day is, whether it's 1 day, 2 day, 3 days, they go like that. So if you're here and you're training and you're working with a great instructor, I mean, you're going to feel like you're getting so much information, but you're getting detailed information. And that's mm-hmm. why they're excelling at that rate.
And then you kind of like know why you're doing well or why you aren't doing well. And you can have, under the eye of a watchful instructor or trained instructor. Max, we're going to take a quick break. After that, I want to talk about the class that we have coming up with you guys. If you're thinking about purchasing a silencer, a great place to start is a 22. Just a regular rimfire silencer, and Silencer Central has their own, the Banish 22, designed for rimfire rifles and pistols. It's as close to Hollywood quiet as you can get. Full titanium construction, easily serviced for cleaning. It's their quietest rimfire suppressor, and it's $500. And they'll help you do it. They'll walk you through the process. They make it easy, and then they send you the suppressor right to your door once it's all done. So check them out, silencercentral.com. RangeReadyStudios.com is where you go to find out about the training classes we're putting on here at the Gun Talk headquarters. And one of the really cool ones coming up is the thing that we're talking about on the show today, Hands to Guns with Max Michel and Steve Tarani. It's October 13th through the 15th. It's a 3-day class, includes both pistol and hand-to-hand combat, including edged weapons. These guys are the best in the business at what they do, and you can come get 3 days of training with them. It's pretty phenomenal. Go to rangereadystudios.com to learn more. SIG Sauer, you think of them as a gun company first, probably, but they also make really good ammo. And one of the things they do is defensive ammo, personal protection you can trust. The V-Crown, the ultimate defense round, delivers exceptional on-target energy, maximum weight retention, and optimal expansion at all effective distances. Uncompromising, constant drive to continue innovating and perfecting all aspects of small arms ballistics through advanced design, architecture, superior projectiles, which is really the secret sauce, and optimizing the propellant and the chemical properties. Go check them out, sigsauer.com, click on the ammo, and then you'll click on defensive ammo, and you can learn more about the cool things they're doing over there. All right, so Max, we've worked with you for years. We've worked with Steve Tarani as far as having him on the radio show and some stuff like that. In fact, my dad, Tom Gresham, did go to Gunsight and take a class that was, I think it was maybe Rob Latham and Steve Tarani together. So talk about, I guess maybe start with, how did you meet Steve, and then we'll kind of get into this experience that we're putting on here, which you guys, I don't know if you've heard me say this yet, because I've been putting it out there, but I've called this class, it's your John Wick intro course.
That's a great one. Yeah, that ought to sell pretty quick.
It should, right? Right. But talk about Steve. Talk about how did you guys meet?
Yeah, it's funny. I've heard the name Steve Tarani for so long, being a part of the SIG Academy now for the past 15 years. I've seen the company grow from where, really just a 226 company to where we are today with things that have exploded. Mm-hmm. And part of that explosion has been the Academy. So I've seen that kind of go from that direction as well. And Steve has always been a big name at the Academy. all the courses that he had taught there over the years, and some of the buddies that we know. We know, I think we both knew each other's names, but we didn't really get to spend any time together until recently at the Las Vegas Pro Shooter Experience, the Max Michel Pro Shooter Experience I mentioned earlier. He was a student. So I go through the roster and I start looking over, hey, who's the students and where we're going to put them and what category we're going to put these guys. And I saw that name and I was like, holy cow, Steve Tarani's in my course.
And how cool is that he just signs up? Like, I'm just going to sign up and take this.
He just signed up. Super cool guy, super awesome. And yeah, I was a little bit nervous, to be honest. I'm like, man, I got to do a good job here. And so he came into the course, but he was very humble and just ready to learn. He didn't care, what he had done previously, who he had trained with previously. He was all ears and he was taking notes. He was super detailed. I love
that. Doesn't surprise me. The emails that I get from him, I'm like, dude, this guy is like here are all the answers and when should I expect a follow up? And like, man.
Oh yeah, he's on it, man. So he was very dedicated in the course. It was like he was a brand new student, and I love that because it's not very often a guy like Steve or myself or you or whoever gets to be a student, because we're always promoting courses or doing courses or helping out with courses. But he was a student, and he was a great student. So that was the first kind of experience with Steve. And afterwards, he came over to me and just was very, very polite and very kind, and just said, "Hey, I really enjoyed the course. You're very detail orientated. Everything you've talked about, it really relates to what I do, and there's a lot of there's a lot of things that connect there. A lot of connections between my world and your world." And he says, "Would you, be open to teaching together?" And I was like, heck yeah, man, that's an honor. I'd love to do that. And that's kind of how that came about. And I know him and Robbie Latham have done some courses similar in the past. And he was just looking to move in, something to the Southeast, because he does all those courses on the West Coast for the most part. And he, asked me to be a part of his courses. And I thought this could be really super cool. And now that you've mentioned it's a John Wick training, it's even better.
Yes. Well, and the reason I say that is we've got Max Michel. I mean, Max, the way I describe it, you tell me if I'm on point on this. Max, it doesn't have to be competitive shooting, but you can teach someone how to shoot fast and accurately with a pistol.
Right.
Whether that's competitive shooting, defensive shooting, law enforcement, whatever it is. Be fast, be accurate, or be faster, be accurate.
Yeah, so exactly. So because my world is so applicable to what goes on, what I do from a competition, from a game standpoint, is so applicable to what goes on the modern battlefield or the streets that we patrol. So whether you're law enforcement, military, someone that's just protecting your family, or a competitive shooter, we all want to find ways to be accurate, but at the same time be acceptably accurate. And what I mean by that is I want to shoot as fast as I possibly can, within reason of that acceptable accuracy. If I'm shooting the size of a coin, the size of a quarter at 50 yards, one-handed as an NRA bullseye shooter, that's amazing accuracy. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't be able to do that. I wouldn't have a job there. That's not my skill set. Those guys are absolutely incredible at what they do. But what we do in more of the combative style shooting is, shooting a softball-sized group, shooting 5 or 6 shots in less than a second. How do we do that? And how do we transition the gun from one target to the next target in less than a quarter of a second? All those little things we talk about in my courses apply very well to those that are concealed carrying or protecting our country, as I mentioned.
I want to go into that a little bit more. Talk about the acceptable accuracy, because acceptable sounds like we're covering for not being accurate, but that's not what we're saying. Like, for in the game world, if you have an A zone, and the A zone is how big is an A zone?
It's about 5 inches wide and 11 inches tall.
Okay. So tell me if I'm right on this. If you can shoot a 2-inch group shooting, I don't know, half-second splits, you should shoot faster, right? Don't shoot a 2-inch group when you have the luxury of shooting a 5-inch group.
Right, exactly. Now, it just depends on what the size and the difficulty and the distance of the target you're engaging. So I have a number of different sight pictures that I utilize. It's not just one sight picture. For so many years, we've always been taught, if we're shooting iron sights, front sight in the middle of the rear notch,
right? Even
amount of daylight on both sides, flush across the top. The sight is clear. The target is blurry. Breathing and squeezing and all these things. There's no time for that in the real world application of competitive shooting or combative style shooting. There just isn't, to be honest with you. So should you need to make an extremely accurate shot, then yes, we need to go the appropriate steps to get there. But if the target is within 3 yards, which most situations probably are in a stressful situation, if we're within 3 to 5 yards, I don't need to see that perfect sight picture. And that's part of the training, what we do, and part of what we will do here in that course is making sure the guys understand what sight picture is acceptable at what distance. So the acceptable accuracy to me is just being able to hit the target that I want to hit in the appropriate amount of time and not wasting any time. So basically what I call it seeing what you need to see. If it's a 5-yard target, that's a wide open threat. I don't need to see complete dot stabilization. Shooting a red dot. Most guys are shooting red dots these days, but I don't need to see complete dot stabilization. If the target's at 15 yards, I need to see a little more dot stabilization. But at 5 yards, that dot could be moving within that 5 to 11 inch area, and I'm going to break the shot. So acceptably accurate to me is just shooting a softball size group or maintaining good dot movement within the center of that particular target area at that distance. And the further it goes away or the smaller that target becomes, it could be a 5-yard no shoot or 5-yard penalty, a 5-yard headshot type of a target.
Right.
Maybe somebody's behind a wall, a window, or a vehicle, or a hostage type situation. I need more dot stabilization at that situation because I have a smaller surface area target. But for the most part, we shoot as fast as we possibly can see the sights being as stable as possible on the target.
I love that because most people, it's funny, there's a guy who shoots on the weekends near my house and I can hear him shooting. And it's not a problem. I love it. Brad, it's fine. But and Brad's actually a good shooter, but for a while I'd hear boom, boom, boom. And there'd be about 10 of those.
Yeah.
And then he'd do a reload. And then it'd boom, boom, boom. And I was thinking, I guess if you were just practicing your trigger press or something, I'm analyzing this way more than needed to be, right? I'm listening going, you need to shoot faster, dude. Like try something else. Like that's what a lot of people do if they go to the range. I went to practice today. I went to shoot. What'd you do? Well, I loaded the gun and then I hit all bullseyes.
Right. And that's what they equate success to.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of guys that I'm training these days, a lot of law enforcement military guys that are switching to red dots, part of what I do is I transition a lot of groups to red dot optics. And during that transitional phase, success to them is the tightest group possible. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to sit here and say that that's not important. It is important. But what I'm saying is that let's do that faster.
Yeah.
You know, do we want to shoot a 1/2 inch, 5 shots within 10 seconds, or do we want to shoot 2 inches or 3 inches or 4 inches, 5 shots in a second? You know, so let's figure out what is successful in our world and our application, and let's go that route. Do you need to be accurate? Absolutely, because if you're not accurate, you can't go fast.
Yeah.
But there are ways that we can get you faster and remaining acceptably accurate.
Well, like going back to that A zone, like, okay, if it's still all in the A zone,
same point value,
and
right?
you can, who cares? Go faster.
Right.
And how often do you hear people who they don't want to go faster because they're going to miss? And you're like, dude, we're on the range. Go fast. Let the wheels come off.
Yeah, because, you know, the fear of failure strikes, and it's like, I don't want to mess this up. I don't want to. Look, there's the best shooters in the world, and Rob Latham is a big part of your show, and I've seen him come on here quite a few times over the years. And I remember I asked him one time, a long time ago, I'm like, you know, how do you stop being nervous? How do you become so perfect? Like, how do you be Rob Latham? He's like, those things never go away. Like, you're always going to be nervous. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to suck from time to time, but you want to continue to put out your best. And the only way to put out your best is to try, is to fail, really, in that situation. So yes, and you're at the range and you're practicing and you're training, fail. And it's one of the other things he told me a long time ago is when you're practicing, if everything's going perfect, what did you really get out of your practice session? You're only practicing what you're good at, well, it's fun. You see positive results. You feel really good about yourself. But when the situation comes up and you've been presented with something you have not done before or you're not ready for, you'd rather do it in training than in real life.
And you'll be surprised, because I've done this. I'll go, because I'm not typically a fast shooter and I like to hit and be accurate. But there'll have been times when I say, okay, Ryan, I can feel myself doing that kind of boom, 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 and go, all right, go as fast as I feel safe going. And sometimes it's a mess, but sometimes I'm going, wow, I just drew and shot as fast as I could, and they were all on target.
Right.
They were all hits, and you might surprise yourself.
Yeah, I guess, you know, for me, I've done it so long that when I talk about it with newer shooters or other students, like you said, they don't know what fast is. They don't know what they're capable of. So I'll put them on the timer. So there's an electronic timer device that most people have in training these days. You just push a button and within 3 seconds, it'll beep. And once that buzzer goes off, that's your cue to go. And in every shot you fire, it actually records from the sound. It will record every shot that you fire within hundredths of a second of accuracy. So you can shoot as many shots as you want, and you know exactly how long it's taking you per shot. So let's say I put somebody on the clock and I give them 3 seconds. And within 3 seconds, I want you to draw and fire 5 shots onto one single target. And they immediately think, I can't do that. There's no way that I can get it done in 3 seconds. Or they rush and they push themselves so fast that they end up missing the target and they're done in 2 seconds. And then it gives us something to talk about. And look, hey, let's break down what 3 seconds actually is. If you can draw the gun out of the holster in a second and a half, let's just use that for easy math. Now you have another second and a half for the last 4 shots.
Yeah.
So you could be a 30 split in between shots and still make the time easily and have 5 good hits on target. So we try to explain to them, what does that take now? Let's have stance, grip, posture. We talk about trigger control if you need it, or what type of sight picture we're using. There's a lot that goes into that. But yes, if you just put them on the clock and say, hey, we want to beat this time, let's go after it. And then you start breaking down the data and saying, okay, let's change this, let's tweak that, recoil management, posture, all these things. That becomes a lot more obtainable and a lot easier for these guys to hit.
That's the kind of thing that most people don't think about. But you guys are thinking about that all the time. You could look at a small course of fire and you can know how long it should take you to do approximately.
Yeah, I mean, right? It takes a little bit of time, a little bit of Louisiana math in my head takes longer
but you're
than
like,
most.
you know what your draw to first shot, okay, and then I'm going to do this and these splits, and then I'm going to have to do this reload, and it's like, kind of like ballpark of like, this should be like 4.5 seconds or 8 seconds or whatever it is, right?
Yep.
All right, quick break. After the break, we're going to talk more about how do you get into this class with Max. When it comes to concealed carry, I honestly think you probably need more than one gun because it gives you options on ways to carry. When it comes to a small gun, even a pocket-sized gun, the one that I like the best lately is the Ruger LCP Max. You probably know the LCP. They've sold millions of them, but now they have the LCP Max, which is higher capacity. So it's the same footprint as the LCP2. It's still compact and lightweight, but it holds 10 rounds in the magazine, so 11 rounds in the gun. It's very cool. You can learn more over at Ruger.com. We all like to shoot steel targets because it gives you that immediate feedback on whether you made the hit and that satisfying ding. But not all steel targets are made the same. The quality is crap and they'll get damaged and dented, but some of that is also dangerous if they're not constructed the right way. MGM Targets knows what they're doing. If you go to mgmtargets.com, they've been at it forever. One of the cool products that a lot of people seem to like is the plate rack in a bucket. And so it's these plates that you can just hang on a 2x4. You can make a little 2x4, almost like a sawhorse, and you hang them from that. It's a plate rack in a bucket. It's 3/8 inch thick hex alloy, 550 steel, 8-inch hex plate, hexagon shaped targets. You can learn more at mgmtargets.com. You need to go get some steel targets. Remington, Big Green. You've heard of them, I think, right? Remington Ammunition. They make everything from rifle ammo, handgun ammo, rimfire, shot shell. What I've been doing a lot lately is getting ready for hunting season. So I've been out at the Trap and Skeet, the Sporting Clays range, trying to get some trigger time in. And for that, you cannot beat their gun club ammunition. It's simple. It does the job. You could break targets with it, and they have it online. You can learn more at Remington.com. New season of Guns and Gear, season 15. Can you believe it? Season 15 is here. So it is out. It is on the Outdoor Channel. We want you guys to tune in, see all the new gear. We've done some really fun things this year with testing it on the range. Outdoor Channel, Wednesday nights at 6 p.m., 10 p.m., and then a couple other airings, but those are Eastern times. Then you can also find us online and watch it on your Roku device, Apple TV, all those different places, Android, iPhone. Get the Gun Talk TV app. New season of Guns and Gears here. Hope you can tune in. So, Max, we kind of got into that, but I want to talk about Steve Tarani. And if people listen to Gun Talk Radio, they've heard him on the show. Oh, you're the gun guy, and Steve is a gun guy. He can shoot.
Absolutely.
But his specialty, his scariness, comes from the hand-to-hand stuff and also edged weapon stuff.
Yeah, so I think that's what's super cool about this. That's something that is not my skill set. That is not what I do. And every course that I teach, I will let the guys know up front, even when I'm teaching military and law enforcement, I am not here to teach tactics. That's not what I do. I do what I do, and I'm going to show you how I do it, and I'm going to make you guys better with that skill set. And that's where Steve comes in. He's a completely different side of this. So, the hand-to-hand stuff, the close quarter kind of threat that might be coming your way, especially with knives and different types of objects, he can really teach that hand-to-hand side of things. From his background of teaching military, law enforcement, and all these other agencies over the years, he's extremely qualified and very well sought after by these guys. So he's at the tip top of that game.
Yeah.
And you bring me from the shooting side of things and you put it together. To me, it makes that ultimate kind of conceal carry, if you will, or that ultimate John Wick, like you mentioned before.
Yeah. Well, I think that a lot of us who are safety-minded, defensive-minded, carry a gun. You carry the gun, but a lot of people, I mean, if we're honest with ourselves, you could carry a gun for 40 years and never even use it, never even like pull it out.
And you hope so, right?
And you hope so,
Yeah.
right? And then we kind of go, well, I also carry a knife, and maybe that's kind of another option. It's another tool in the toolbox. Let's be honest, though. For most of us, we don't know what the heck we're doing with that. Like
No.
even basic like do's and don'ts. If Steve goes, all right, well, show me what you would do with your knife defensively. Honestly, I'd be like, oh crap. And then I'm going, I guess I would do this. He's like, no,
Yeah.
right off the bat. So, I mean, I like the idea of like, here's some simple things you should do, shouldn't do. Hell, I hope the TSA is not listening or anything, but I always have one of those like tactical pins.
Right.
And I'm always, I usually will, after I get through TSA, pro tip, get about a dozen pins and put them all together in your backpack.
Okay.
And you pull out the tactical
Nice.
pin, just a little camo for
Yeah.
it. And then you can have it on you and it's steel and it's pointed.
Right.
And I'm like, well, I don't know. In a pinch, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll start dropping some hammer throws on with the
Right.
tactical pin or whatever.
Hopefully later in October, you can figure out a little more to do with
But
that.
yeah, he would actually go, here's what you need to do.
Yeah, and I think that's what's cool about this course too, is that, ideally, like we mentioned, most of us, if you're watching this show, you probably are carrying a handgun typically when you're going out with your family. But like you mentioned, the odds of us actually drawing down and using it is very slim. Now, the odds of you getting into some sort of hand-to-hand altercation is much greater. And I think that's where Steve comes in and really helps. Now, should you have to go to the gun, Steve's going to do everything hands-on, close quarter, everything on that side of things, and really protecting yourself from that threat, that really extremely close threat. And then once the hand goes to the gun, that's where I take over. But odds are we're probably and hopefully never have to draw that,
Yeah.
never have to draw the gun. But having him give us the ability to have more training and more knowledge, I think that's incredibly important, and even from a jiu-jitsu standpoint, which I need to get into the gym. We have another good friend of ours, Greg Lappin. He has a local place here, and just those are the things that you probably, I don't want to say that you don't need the gun training, obviously, because you do, but those are the things that you may utilize more. And that's why I like bringing Steve into this course, because it really ties it all together, because there's going to be several times when you don't want to or can't, for whatever reason, get to the gun. We have to be able to protect ourselves before we get there. And honestly, every situation we want to try to get away from. That's, to me, the biggest thing when you're a concealed carry person, or when you're someone that's out there carrying a handgun. The goal is to never have to draw it. The goal is to never have to fire it. That's the goal.
But and to add to that, I can't remember if it was Steve or was it somebody else. I think it may have been Steve on the radio show when he was doing his executive protection stuff, secret squirrel stuff. One of the things that their boss would say is, if we go to guns, we failed. There's a lot of steps that we should have taken to basically avoid that altogether. This should not happen.
And I think what it comes down to, and not in every situation, obviously, of course, but if you are drawing the gun, maybe it's because you don't have that level of training. You know what I mean?
Point.
Because I'm just looking at me personally. Like I'm looking forward to being in this course with Steve too, because I want to learn more. Because in a situation, I'm probably going to go to the gun, and maybe I shouldn't, but that's what I'm used to, and I'm comfortable, and that's where my training is.
Yeah.
But if I had more training, maybe I can get myself out of trouble a little quicker.
When you have a hammer, everything's a nail. It's like, I don't know. All I do is train with this gun. That's what I know.
That's right, man. Don't mess with me.
I don't know. I'm sorry. What else, man? What else you got coming up?
Well, like I said, that course, I think that's the big thing that we have that we're focusing on. I think we can, how can they sign up for the course there?
So they go to rangereadystudios.com It's the course is it's Max and Steve. It's hands to guns. There's just a couple courses there, but you'll find it. It's 3 days in October, which should be absolutely
great.
Perfect. Perfect weather here. And it's going to be fantastic. You got any matches coming up later in the fall?
I do. So in November, we have what we call the IPSC, the International Practical Shooting Confederation, the IPSC Nationals. That's going to be down in Florida, which it's an international match held in the U.S. We only do one of those a year, so it's slightly different rules than I typically shoot, but it sets us up and prepares us better for the next World Championship, which will be in 2025 in South Africa.
Oh, wow. Cool.
So we're kind of gearing toward that and really qualifying, trying to qualify for that. The division that I compete in now is the biggest, largest, most difficult division. So I'm hopeful that I'll make the U.S. team, just continue to work and continue to train. The older I get, it doesn't get any easier. The kids get younger. But I've been blessed to be a part of the U.S. team for the past 9 world shoots, so the past almost 30 years, and won a gold medal each time with a team as a team event. So it's been really awesome to be a part of USA. So hopefully I'll continue down that path and at least do a few more before I retire.
Absolutely. I don't think your fast twitch muscles are slowing down that much.
I'll be here for a while, hopefully. Yeah.
Thanks for being on, man.
I mean, this has been fun. It's been a blast. I hope you have me back again soon.
Absolutely. So, all right, guys, if you're interested, you can sign up, rangereadystudios.com, the Hands to Guns course. And that's it for us. We'll see you guys next time on Gun Talk Nation.